Asmir Angel. Am I saying name wrong? Hi. Hi 3 times. How are you? That's a lot of highs. Are you happy today? I'm happy to be off work. Hi, and Angel. Hi, Angel. I'm not killing the name. Good. Glad you're good. Let's have a wonderful trip. First, I gotta feel this stuff. It's good. Thank you for being here and watching. I appreciate it. I'm good. Just got off work, so I'm like, well, might as well go trucking. We're going anyways. What are you doing? How did you see that I got cut off? He just cuts me off. People seriously. Oh, driving to the gas station and then on my way back to Clearfield. You know how them long drives are. I'm gonna have that. Ah, okay. Hello, games played Diverso. I probably said that wrong, but now to feel. How are you guys? Thanks for being here. Where are you from? Always busy, so. How's it going? So, it's gonna be a little quiet. Put some gas. try not to drop my phone. Like my car. There's my passenger, my driver. Yep. Giving you a tour of my car. So if you see this car, that is me, Boricua in Utah. There we go. That's the inside. That's my car. Got a tour of my car. And back to people watching. Alright, I will be right back. I am gonna go get a drink. You'll see me walking to the door. Yeah, I need a drink. My hands are freezing. everybody's gone. Right. Everybody ready? Ready for the drive? I got my white chocolate mocha. If you haven't tried this, it is delicious. Where is it? Alright. Oh man, that's tasty. Alright, let's go. Let's see if I can put I do like putting coast to coast on while I drive. Ready to rumble. Alright.
It takes 2 seconds and you'll instantly receive a free digital good luck charm and instructions on how to cheaply make glasses at home that might allow you to see the other side.
It's time for a new coin.
Take a look at the Curiosity Shop to find rare, amazing things you will not find anywhere else in the world. There is no period after the P in JoshuaPWarren.com. I am Joshua P. Warren, and you're listening to on the iHeartRadio and Coast to Coast AM Paranormal Podcast Network.
Rumble.
And I will be right back after this.
We'll be right here.
Macy's is your one-stop shop for everything merry and bright. From the perfect gifts to delicious sweets, we've got you covered. Find fresh ingredients for family dinners, delightful desserts to share, and even holiday meal kits to make hosting a breeze. Plus, discover thoughtful gifts, festive treats, and stocking stuffers to spread cheer. At Macy's, we're here to make your holidays stress-free and memorable. Stop by and see how we can help you celebrate the season in style. Macy's, happy shopping!
Macy's.
The flavor, the tradition, and the spirit of carne asada lives on at Del Taco. Join the asada today with Del Taco's new limited time half-pound Chipotle carne asada steak burrito. Packed with sweet, spicy, and smoky flavor, wrapped up and grilled to perfection. The whole carne asada steak menu delivers the bold flavors you crave with epic burritos, loaded fries, and street tacos starting at just $2.99. Only at Del Taco.
High Five Casino is a social casino with real prizes and big Vegas hits at highfivecasino.com. The hottest games right from Vegas, and all winnings go straight to your bank account. Hundreds of exclusive games, free daily rewards, and come back to get free coins every 4 hours. Only at highfivecasino.com.
High Five Casino is a social casino. Every is necessary for the prohibited play responsibly. Supply and receive website for details at high5casino.com. High Five Casino.
With age, women and men have issues with fine lines, wrinkles, under eye bags, creepy skin on the neck, and aging eyelids. Dr. Nathan Newman has developed Luminance for amazing results treating these issues with his stem cell-based formula, APT200. Try Luminance today with a postage-paid starter kit for only $19.99. Available exclusively at HealthyLooking.com. Join thousands of satisfied customers using Luminance. Learn more at HealthyLooking.com.
Somebody YouTube channel.
Go to coasttocoastam.com for more information.
You're listening to Strange Things with Joshua P.
That means
Warren
someone's
on
gonna
the
get
new
arrested.
iHeartRadio and Coast to Coast AM Paranormal
Force Base was active up until 1994. That was our headquarters for this. And they had a helicopter that would fly around and get shots of us. This is before drones were around. It was a little scary because they had this kind of small helicopter, and if you moved unexpectedly when it was flying around you, it would cut your head off. Them for the old days. That's how we used to make TV, kids. So anyway, they gave us all kinds of swag like you wouldn't believe. I'm talking nice, big, heavy Vortex coats. They had X-Ops, the Discovery Channel logo embroidered on them, and caps, and booties, and watches. And they gave us a watch. And this watch cost hundreds of dollars. It was a special ops watch. It had the X-Ops logo on it. Still one of my most prized possessions, actually. And I mean, this was just a top star production, right? So within a couple of days, we were ready to go off the team and really pursue this great mystery and get to the bottom of what was happening in Roswell. So they put us on the jet with all the leather interior and the nice big fully stocked bar, and I mean, it was flying in luxury. When we got to Roswell, the one thing I will tell you, I've only been to Roswell these woods 15 years ago, and I don't know how much things may or may not have changed. But what I can tell you is that, at least in 2005, there is no reason to go through that area unless you have an interest in the Roswell alien story. There's just nothing else around it. From the moment we got there, we knew we were being monitored. Okay, I can tell you stories and stories and stories about this, but these shady characters, to say the least, were immediately following us wherever we went around town, even just, stupid stuff going to restaurants or whatever. There were a number of occasions when it was clear that we were being recorded and we didn't know about it. For example, at one point, I was talking privately to Brian Irish in somewhere, like a lobby somewhere, and there was nobody else around. And he said something to me like, I wonder if they're going to have Bloody Mary mix on the plane. I said, I don't know. And then 5 minutes later, somebody from the crew was coming through and giving us notes on stuff, and then they turned to Brian and they said, oh yeah, there is going to be a Bloody Mary mix on the plane. And Brian and I looked at each other like, how the heck did they know we just had that conversation, right? So, listen, I won't go down that wormhole. One of the first things that we did, however, rabbit hole, I guess you could say, but I like to call it a wormhole. We went to the Roswell Army Airfield Hospital property, and we did our investigation there, and sure enough, we had a medical doctor and nurses. This is the real deal. They worked there at that time, and they sat right down there. I mean, these were active employees in 2005, and they told us they were seeing the ghosts of these aliens that had apparently been taken there after the Roswell crash. There were animations that were made, CGI kind of stuff in the TV show. I did investigation there all night, got all kinds of bizarre readings. So we were off to a pretty good start. And then the day came, I think it was like day number 3, when we were actually going to go out to the site where the Roswell crash had occurred. And what you have to understand is there are a lot of people making a nickel telling you like, oh yeah, this is the site where the crash was, and it's like a thing. But no, we actually did real research, and we got to the bottom of it. There was a debris field, because when this thing crashed, it didn't just crash at one spot. It skipped over miles, and there were various deposits of crash. So we went to the center of that. We had these SUVs that had discoveries on the sides. And so we all piled in, and we're heading out to drive to the crash site. And finally, all of this weirdness of all these people around town that are always kind of spying on us kind of came to a head, because as soon as we pulled out of the hotel heading to the crash site, blue lights everywhere. And they pulled our entire caravan over, and the Roswell police detained our entire group. Explanation for a good 30 minutes. I never was given an explanation. We drove out into the desert, and we hiked for a long way, and you know, we were on federal property. Of course, there was like a white SUV in the distance watching us through a telescope, very similar to what you've seen at Area 51. We didn't really find anything too amazing out there, to be honest, in the desert. I mean, you can imagine that's been pretty clean. But we were doing a good, you know, like we had been able to investigate the Roswell Museum there all night, use thermal cameras, we got some weird stuff. Like, everybody was doing a good job of getting weird stuff. Well, here's what makes this story really special, okay? As we were getting toward the end of our shooting days, we were there for about a week, I guess, on this extremely windy, cold night, we went to Hangar 84, which is just a gigantic, drafty, noisy, creepy hangar that is just out there in the desert, and that is where the bodies were supposedly first brought to before they then went to the hospital for their preliminary exam. And so Jim Castle thought it would be cool to do a seance in Hangar 84 to see if we could commune with the spirits of the aliens. Fine, sounds like a good idea to me too. So he set up this big round wooden table, and it had cans all over it, and the whole cast sat around in a circle. And of course the psychics were going to lead all this, and I was just there with all of my gadgets and gizmos, and I was just going to sort of roam around the table to some extent, taking measurements of the energy, the environment in the room while this was happening. So it was all dark and spooky, and like I say, you hear like these metal panels banging, the wind blows. It was just a very creepy experience. So the lights were pretty much turned down except for all these candles. And the seance seemed to be going pretty well, and I started picking up this slowly elevating electromagnetic field. It was getting this like really, really spooky. Everybody started getting the things. And you may not realize that being a cameraman, a professional cameraman, is a very, very tough job. Camera equipment is really heavy and creepy, and those guys worked their butts off. And they had really expensive cameras. At that time, each one of their cameras were $25,000 cameras. They were high-def cameras. And there was this one guy, his name was Bob, and he was one of the chief camera guys. And as we were filming, Bob, who had just been, you know, just like the bulldog cameraman throughout this whole experience, just super tough, strong, durable dude, you know. Bob, he starts sort of like, it took us a second to notice it, but he started kind of wavering a little bit. And then all of a sudden, right in the middle of this shoot, Bob just passes out, man. And he just hits the floor, and this $25,000 camera goes bang, and there is a gasp in the room, of course. And so immediately, you know, we cut, and everybody goes rushing over to Bob. Are you okay? And Bob looks like he's kind of out of it. They're about to call 911, and then Bob goes, no, I think maybe I locked my knees or something. Let me just go get some fresh air. So we took him outside. He got some fresh air. And after like 10 minutes, he said, okay, I think I'm fine. I don't know what happened, but I'm ready to go again. It's like, okay. So we went back in to continue. And so Jim Castle starts resetting everything. And he had a monitor there so that he could sort of look back and figure out where we were and sort of where we needed to pick this up from and how we needed to pick this up, right?
Right.
And so Jim rolls back the monitor, and I heard him say, what the blank? Okay, I can't say that word here, but you know the word. What the? And I go over and I said, what is it? I was the first one standing right there. I said, what is it, Jim? He goes, rewind that. He wound it back. Once again, he goes, what the? And now I'm going, what the? I don't know what I'm seeing either. All of a sudden, like, everybody is crowded around us. What is it? What is it? What is it? He is rewinding the footage back to the point just before Bob passed out at the floor and playing it over and over and over. And what we see one of the strangest things that I've ever seen in my life. Okay, I still cannot tell you with certainty what category this goes into. I don't know if you call this ghostly or alien or interdimensional or something else. Right? I'm not sure. When we come back from this break, though, I'm going to tell you what we saw on this computer monitor. It was actually just, it was a video monitor is what it was. I'm going to tell you what we saw on this video monitor that we captured just before Bob hit the ground. And then what happened next. I'm Joshua P. Warren. You're listening to Strange Things on the iHeartRadio and Coast to Coast AM Paranormal Podcast Network. And I will be right back.
Macy's is your one-stop
So good, enjoy the drive with Coast to Coast, or prefer me to be social. If you can hear me, because I don't have a mic. Enjoy the drive. Waiting for the story. It's getting interesting. One day I'm gonna go to Roswell as a road trip. I need some time off. That'd be nicer to be at work after turn that. Oh, the sun's rising. Here comes traffic. This is where everybody gets done. Ready for the rest of the story? So I want to know what happened to Bob. Or what he captured on his camera.
Welcome back to Strange Things on the iHeartRadio and Coast to Coast AM Paranormal Podcast Network. I'm your host, Joshua P. Warren, and this is the show where the unusual becomes usual. Here we are, staring at this monitor in awe and silence, really.
Cops everywhere today.
Zoning in, focusing on this.
He's gonna talk about Bob.
Here you see our table, all of us sitting around it, conducting the seance. The candles are burning, and then all of a sudden, something appears over our heads that I can only describe to you as a huge, glowing, spectral
serpent or serpent-like form that slithers through the air overheads straight over toward, guess who?
Bob.
Bob. And then, pow! Bob hits the floor. Now, we did not see the big glowing spectral snake or serpent or whatever this thing was with our naked eyes. For one thing, we weren't even looking up. We were all just sort of focused on really each other and what was happening at the table. So it's not a surprise that we wouldn't have seen it. But this is something that only showed up on camera. And when I tell you a big glowing serpent-like thing appeared and slithered over our head, but I don't know how else to describe, like, I don't know if this is a ghost or an alien or a spiritual being. Now, I will get back to more of a recap of what I think this may be telling us in a minute, okay? But the effect of seeing this alone was absolutely shocking. But the fact that it went over toward Bob and did something to Bob, that is the context. You know, here we are in Roswell, in Hangar 84, where the alien bodies were brought, having a seance. Who's ever done that before? And capturing with a professional crew this big thing flying over their head, at our head, over to the cameraman, boom, knocking it to the floor. Like, none of us even knew that was there. How is that possible? When it sunk in with us, what we had, all of a sudden, our shock and confusion. Jackpot. This is good TV, man. We have reached the climax of the show. You know, we captured something here that's going to add a whole new chapter to the lore of Roswell. I mean, that's no small thing. A place that has been so exhaustively researched, and we captured something that's completely bizarre and out of left field, that's done legitimately, captured from numerous camera angles, etc., that is, you know, that makes this kind of an impact. We were celebrating. We felt we had accomplished enough to make this show a hit. And in fact, after that, and by the way, Bob was fine in the long run. We flew back to San Bernardino to do kind of our wrap up in the hangar there at Norton. And this whole time, we actually had with us supervising this big, elaborate, expensive production, two of the executive producers from the network, from Discovery. They were along the whole time, watching everything, and they were so excited that they were literally telling me face to face and all the other members of the cast, like, you better go ahead and start looking for apartments in Los Angeles, because you're probably going to be doing this show for a long, long, long time. And so basically, when we all parted ways, it was actually sad, but at the same time, we were like, we're going to be seeing each other again very, very soon. And Jim Castle said, now I just have to get the rough cut put together, and then, you know, once they see the final rough cut, we're good to go. I'm sure they'll love it, how could they not? Everybody is excited about this, and Jim even said it's okay to go ahead and start promoting it. Go ahead and start talking it up. So we all went our separate ways, and sure enough, we all started talking it up. And you have, you know, we're talking 8, 9 people here, including Jim Mars, going all over the media telling everybody, get ready, get ready, get ready. We've got something big and weird and interesting on this new show called X-Ops on the Discovery Channel. And we wait, and we wait, and we wait. Crickets, 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 crickets. What's happening? Weeks go by. I don't know, maybe 6 weeks. One day I got a call from Jim Castle, and Jim said, Josh, something very strange is going on here. I said, oh yeah, what's that? He said, well, it began with these two producers, the ones who were with us from Discovery, and I know their names, and I remember their names, but I'm not going to say their names on this podcast. He said, I started calling them. We used to talk on almost a daily basis. He said, I call them. Nobody answers. Rings and rings and rings and rings and rings. No voicemail, no nothing. He said, you know, calls the network. This person's out to lunch, this person's out to lunch. Everybody associated with this whole project is just sort of gone. They've just vanished. And finally, Jim gets in touch with one of the big wigs, one of the top people there. And the guy said to Jim, "This is never going to see the light of day." And Jim goes, "Why?" And he says, it's not going to be released. It's not going to be released.
Just my personality.
And that was the end of it. Boom. We got this phenomenal footage. And they put this elaborate thing together. And we were told to start promoting it, etc. And now everybody's going. To this day, 15 years later, I have never heard a peep from those two producers of the stuff. And nobody knows what happened here. Jim Castle told me, he said, "This is amazing, Josh, because I've been on TV my whole life. I've worked on hundreds of shows. I've never, ever seen anything like this before." So here we were promoting this thing all this time, and Jim Mars, who was one of the most outspoken people ever, he said, "Well, we got to let people know what's going on here. It's going to make us look like a bunch of losers." So Jim gets on Coast to Coast to him, and he says, "Screw this contract and whatever, confidentiality," and he starts telling everybody what happened. And so after that, all the rest of the cast starts talking about what happened. And suddenly, the Discovery Channel is getting overwhelmed with phone calls from people saying, "We want to see X-Ops. Just put it on once. Just put it on at 2 o'clock in the morning. Even if it sucks for some reason, let us decide." And by the way, it doesn't suck, but I'll get back to that in a minute. I actually called the Discovery Channel, and I got the operator, and I didn't tell the operator who I was. The X show, and that's going to be released. And the operator was a nice lady who was talkative. She says, "We've been getting so many calls from people wanting us to air that we have changed our phone numbers." It's in the vault. It's in the vault at Discovery, my friends. To this day, it has never been aired, and I have no more information for you. But you know what? I have the footage. I have the footage of this thing slithering over our heads. Why did they can this? I don't know, but listen to this. Just think about this. The headquarters for Discovery was in Silver Spring, Maryland. A stone's throw from the NSA, the National Security Agency. We're talking less than a 30-minute drive, and many other secretive government buildings. There was a lot of talk about whether or not we had found something that was a little too close to the truth, that should not be revealed for some bizarre reason. What does it all mean? Aliens, ghosts, and phantasmal serpents? Well, maybe the answer is simple. Aliens are more than just creatures from another physical planet. They are creatures that are from another dimension altogether. They transcend normal biology. They are both physical and spiritual. They blur the line between the physical and non-physical. And that is why there are very, very real reports of very, very real aliens. And yet we have such trouble capturing them in a test tube or putting them under a microscope, so to speak. But maybe we can learn more about the nature of what's happening here if we're allowed to properly study this footage. Will this ever be released? I do not know. And at this point, 15 years later, I don't even know who would have the power to release it. I guess Jim Castle would be a good place to start. If anybody out there is, if you're a credible person, I don't want to just hear from any Tom, Dick, or Harry, but if you're a credible person, if you're a filmmaker and you want to look into this and follow up on it, get in touch with me and I'll see if I can get you in touch with Jim Castle. It's an interesting story on many, many levels. And I'm fortunate that I have the footage, but I wanted to tell you that story while most of the people who were involved are still alive, can still verify is true, and while there's still a chance that some of this may one day see the light of day. I've never worked on a project so big that has just been shut down so quickly after we got something really strange and significant and wild like that would have looked great on TV. And yet that's what happened with the notorious X-Ops project. Now you know the story. When we come back, I want to read you some interesting emails I've gotten from listeners. Always good stuff. I'm Joshua Pete Warren. You're listening to Strange Things on the iHeartRadio and Coast to Coast AM Paranormal Podcast Network. And I will be right back after this.
Macy's is your one-stop shop for everything Mary.
Alright, people. I hope you enjoyed the drive from coast to coast. There, crows like to sit there and crack nuts. Isn't that funny? So, anyways, as I drop you, anyways, I made it. Thank you, games play. Alright, I'll see you guys later.